What's up, YouTube? Coming back at you again. Got some topics to discuss for the day. Hope everyone had a great week so far. But what I want to talk about today is finding your level, right? So what do I mean by that? Finding the person that matches you, matches your energy, and not dating outside of who you are, right? I made a video, and before we get started, if you guys could hit the like button, please comment if you have any additional information you want to share on this topic, and share the video if you think it's something worthwhile. But anyway, I appreciate you, stopping in and listening to me. So, what I mean by finding your level, right? So there's a saying that water finds its level, right? Basically, when you're out here dating, you're trying to find somebody to match up with. Sometimes, as they would say in the South, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. Or, people might have heard that you bite off more than you can chew. You bit off more than you can chew, right? So basically what that is, sometimes, we look at, our partner and, we think that, or our person that we want to be our partner, and we think that that person's for us. At the end of the day, I think a lot of times we get in relationships, obviously because we don't want to be lonely, and we stay in relationships because we don't, we always want to say we put in too much time to break up, or we, just don't want to go back there out in the streets. And the whole time we're with someone that doesn't match us. They don't match our ambition. They don't match the way we love. They don't match the way we, handle and carry ourselves, right? And I think a lot of times if we would just eliminate that part of it and actually deal with someone who's on your level, as far as where you are in life and what you want out of life, you can, mesh a lot better. There also used to be a saying opposites attract, which is true, right? And the reason that opposites attract is because when you see something different than you that stands out to you, it becomes of interest. It catches your eye. But just because something catches your eye doesn't necessarily mean it's good for you, because while opposite attracts, similarities stay together, right? If you're similar to your partner, where you're headed in life and what you want out of life, more likely you're going to be able to stay together because you're going to make plans that make sense for the both of you guys. When you are going in one direction and the other person is going in a completely different direction, that's going to cause conflict and resentment when one doesn't go with the other, right? They're blaming the other person for why, they can't do the things they want to do, blase, right? I think both men and women are guilty of this. Sometimes, a guy meet a woman out in the streets, she's already, for lack of a term, loosey-goosey, right? And he wants her to conform to his way of living because now he's captured her, excuse my language, but he's captured her heart, he's captured her attention, and now he's like, well, now that I have you, I need you to do X, Y, Z and be a totally different woman than how I met you, right? And for me, I think it's so crazy for guys to think this, because, guys normally don't date off potential. We date off who you are. So if you meet a woman, it's in a profession that you may not approve of, I'm not, knocking anyone. But, I am knocking some people, because some things I just don't agree with as far as professions. But, I'll leave that to your imagination. But if you meet a woman in a profession that you don't agree with, and you're like, well, I'm going to take away from this because, she doesn't want to do this and she doesn't want to do that. She's an adult. She had every right to choose or not to choose the profession that she's in. And by you forcing her to conform to the standards that you set that are more amicable to what you want out of life, man, you are trying to whip through here with a V6 Mustang. so weird. Anyway, it's funny to me because these guys get mad because oh, she out in the streets, she always want to run the streets, or whatnot, blase, blase. So, I mean, you met her running the streets. You were running the streets, and she was running the streets. You can't expect a person to change. You can hope a person changes, but you can't expect a person to change, especially for a guy. If a girl's already living that lifestyle, and you grabbed it, like you met her out there, she was, high maintenance or just a little wild, you saying, well, I'm going to get her to change for me. You sound crazy. Water finds its level, right? Water finds its level. You have to find someone that vibes, the way you vibe. And unfortunately, the person that vibe the way the way you vibe may not be, as far as looks, may not be the looks equivalent of what you want. But it may be, as I said, none of it, but it may be the looks equivalent to what you have going on in your life, unfortunately. I mean, some guys are just as delusional as some women, and they feel like, okay, well, I want this particular type of woman, but their looks equivalent just isn't matching up, right? You can't be a 5 wanting a 10. This is plain simple. Fortunately for a looks equivalent for a guy, you can work on some things and boost your market value when it comes to that. But you have to be aware of where you're at, and just because you can pull that woman, you don't know what her dating habits may be. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, well, I got this baddie, right? Let's say if you do get a baddie, and you're like, oh, I got this baddie, da 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 da. Now I want her to, be only mine, and I only want her to be in the house because she a baddie. And then once you find out she might be a little loosey-goosey baddie, now you definitely want her in the house because you think, okay, I know she kind of loose and she looks good. Let me keep her inside because if anybody else finds a thing, I know they can take it from me. Then, bro, that was never yours, right? If your definition of a stable relationship is commanding her to move a little bit different,